incredible amounts of damage. In the crosswinds, you can lose so much time if you're not good at riding them. And I think we might see some huge time gets at the end of this stage.
Well, we're inside 50 kilometres to go now, and desperation amongst many of the riders here, not wanting to lose sight yet of the riders at the front. And it's the Fassa Bortolo riders who are pushing it hard. And remember, we still have the breakaway, and don't forget also that tomorrow we're back to do again live at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. It's the first big time trial of this year's race, just under 44 kilometres. It's an individual test of truth, and we should get some indication then as to where we're going, because it'll be a chance, I think, for Aito Gonzalez to fight back and recover some of that 3.5 minutes or so he's behind overall. A change of direction here, and it might help the riders at the back to regroup as they swing away to the right. The wind will come round to the rear of them a little bit, and they might just there is an idea of how fast the bike riders are going now as we come back down to a camera on the ground.
Well, in speeds, in conditions like this, with the crosswinds and everybody getting themselves organised into those kind of echelons, those diagonal lines across the road, you're looking at speeds approximately 60 kilometres, 40 miles an hour. The guys at the front have got themselves nicely organised, and we can see, in fact, there is the leader of the King of the Mountains competition there in the orange jersey. I would expect to see the leader of the race overall riding in the front as well, because his team have been very attentive since the start. But it looks now, with the change of direction, as if the front part of the main field is going to catch them up. But there are one or two riders still off the back and in serious difficulty.
Well, it's still US Postal very evident at the front of these groups, working extremely hard. We still have a breakaway on. If you are just joining us, I'll just remind you that up front is Carsten Kroon, Mariano Piccoli, Igor Athaloa and David Navas. They went away at 9 kilometres, but we are closing in on them rather rapidly, but they're still ahead, and I don't think it's going to be for very much longer. The field taking a few deep breaths here. Slowly but surely, they're all regrouping. Welcome back. Well, there we are, 45 kilometres to go to the finish. The latest time gap, I think, on that board was 2 minutes 48 seconds. We heard 2:45, but who's going to argue over 3 seconds? But certainly it is coming down very, very quickly. They're the 4 riders who broke away today at 9 kilometres. I think they're doing remarkably well now, not to lose time quite as fast as we would expect. Now, we think Levi Leipheimer is in this little group of 6, just about to come back to the peloton, which keeps on splitting. But since we joined this main highway into Zaragoza, again we've had a wind change, and it might help them get back.
I tell you what, these guys in the main field are hammering along at 60 kilometres an hour. And just a few moments ago, when we looked at the 4 leaders, you could actually visibly see the difference in the speed. I think all the impetus and hope had gone out of those guys at the front, Bob, because they realised right now that the main field had it at full gas, and they were absolutely hammering along. And I think today we will see a good bunch sprint.
Well, it's an absolutely vicious battle there. The teams of the GC contenders, like US Postal for Roberto Heras, are trying to keep their leaders out of the wind in the protected position, and the teams of the sprinter, particularly Fassa Bortolo for Pataki, really put the screws to the peloton in those miles that they had going into the crosswind, coming straight across from the left-hand side of the road. The riders get lined up in the gutter on the right side, and I can remember spending hours looking around the rider in front of me so you don't puncture, don't hit a car that's been pulled over and parked there. It's an incredibly dangerous situation, because you can't really take a chance if you're gassed, if you're at the limit, to be out in the wind for even a few pedal strokes, because then you get dropped. The peloton turned away from the wind a little bit, so it was a dead tailwind, and it gave the chance for the peloton to regroup. If the road, however, curves back to the left, then I think you'll see some more echelons, some more crosswind battles. At the moment, it seems like a bit of a truce has been declared. Dead tailwind at the moment for the bike racers, and it's coming back together a little bit, but oh my goodness, that is so painful when you don't have great legs and they're going 65 kilometers an hour down the road.
A couple of the Euskaltel riders getting back here. They had first and second yesterday, one of their best results of the season, with the 2 Echevarrias coming home together. Little David also doing very, very well and moving up into second place. Well, it looks as though they are recovering. We're not sure, of course, if Levi has got back into the peloton, because he was losing ground pretty quickly in those crosswinds. But let's hope he has recovered a little bit, as the peloton now settle down to concentrate on those 4 riders, Carsten Kroon, Piccoli, Asteloa and Navas, out in front all day. And these are still riders returning from the rear of the field here and giving it their best shots to get back on terms. Well, Levi is not in this group, but certainly Euskaltel-Euskadi, I think, have had most of their riders behind today.
They really have. They've had a very difficult time, which is rather sad for them after the success of yesterday. And in fact, they were severely criticised again by the race organisation because they didn't bring who the organisation regarded as their best men, and including one, Iban Mayo, has not been brought here after a very successful Tour de France. But I think they answered the critics yesterday with that win going to Unai Echavarria. But this goes to indicate how certain riders and certain builds of riders certainly are not able to handle this kind of weather condition.
Well, that's Unai Echavarria here, just coming into our picture. That long breakaway yesterday clearly hurting his legs as he's trying to get back on terms. He's first left on our shot at the moment, and that's why the team has come wholesaledly about him here to try and help him back into the race. And there's also one Cofidis rider who's got himself in the situation as well. It looks like Guido Trontin, who is the American on the team, isn't he?
And stage winner last year in Sierra Nevada at the Vuelta a Espana. Very good bike racer.
What a difference a year makes.
Yes, what a difference. That's the last thing you want to see as the team director of the Euskaltel team, is your whole team is off the back of the front group. They've caught back on, but it's an indication that David Echevarria also being shelled off the back there, an indicator of how hard they had to go to be first and second on yesterday's stage. No matter if you win a stage like that in a breakaway situation, you are pedaling like crazy, and it's hard to recover overnight, especially when they put the hammer down 50, 60, 80 kilometers before the finish. Very discouraging. Our breakaway is still holding at 2 minutes and 13 seconds. Mariano Piccoli, the Lamprey rider at the back, has won 3 stages in the Vuelta a España in the past. Igor Astarloa there, the Saeco rider, is a Spaniard on the Italian team, perhaps the strongest of all the riders on any given day in this breakaway, the winner of the one-day classic Flesh Alone earlier this spring.
It was well taken too. It was a great win. But they can't be far away here, the leaders, from the 20 kilometres to go. I'll say Banner, although I must confess I haven't seen it too often on the road in the Tour of Spain, unlike in the Tour de France. But they're just on, I think I said 20 kilometres, I meant 40 kilometres to go just then, as the riders now approach the finish. So 40 kilometres, 25 miles, and look at the speed here. Well, if they'd have kept that up all day, we certainly would have had a record stage on this particular road, 60 kilometres an hour. You get the impression of speed when you look at the big peloton, but you don't really get that impression when you look at the 4 leaders. Yet quite clearly the gap is not coming down quickly at 2 minutes 13 seconds, and so they are moving at the speed which we are reading off the satellite there. So the peloton now has put the team of the race leader at the front, basically the Onte boys, trying to bring this race back to right, but they're going to have to close in a bit more yet. We'll take another break as we approach the finish. Looking here at the wind farm, and below it the riders in the Vuelta a España speeding by at speeds today over 50 kilometres an hour. Slowly but surely they are hauling in the breakaways. We're down to 2:08 now to the 4 riders, Kroon, Piccoli, Astarloa and Navas. I think they're doing very well to hold off as long as they have.
They certainly are, but you can see right now the organisation at the front end of the main field. The yellow jerseys there are the team of Once, the team of the overall leader, and probably the team of the future leader for tomorrow, Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano. But the men really taking a serious interest are the ones in the white and blue jerseys of Alessandro Patacchi. And as we mentioned earlier, he was the winner here just a couple of years ago in the year 2000. This, in fact, the town we're going into, Zaragoza, is the capital of the Aragon region, and it's actually the 3rd most visited town on the Vuelta route after Madrid and Barcelona. We're going to come in here for the 43rd time, and I wonder if our man Alessandro Patacchi is going to do the business today, because at these speeds I really cannot see these men surviving.
Great sight over the bridges here with the public enjoying the passage of the Vuelta a España. Well, like all breakaways that gamble on a long day out ahead of the field, they always earn the success, but they very rarely get it. It did work yesterday, the 6 riders staying clear to the finish, and a 1-2 for the Euskaltel-Euskadi team. But somehow one feels that today it will not be quite the same way. Just look at the hard work now being put in. Now, Patacchi, I suppose, Bob, you're picking him to win, are you? I'm
going to pick Zabel today.
Really? Well, that's the end of Zabel.
Just to wind up, Paul.
I was just going to say Eric Zabel, because it's an Eric Zabel style finish today. It's a good run-in on the way to the line, and in fact there's a nice turn at about 800 metres to go, and it does go slightly uphill over the last 600 metres, which would suit Eric Zabel. But I think I'm going to go against Bob again, and I'll choose Alessandro Patacchi today then.
Right, well, I'm saying nothing. I think I can guarantee David Miller not winning, because David's going to save himself to win the time trial tomorrow, I'm sure. 1 minute 46, that's the lowest check we've had for many, many miles today, since I think about the 12th or 13th kilometre of the race. So they're starting now to bring them back in. And these long roads into the city here is really not conducive to the breakaway, because those helicopters are pretty easy to spot, hovering like vultures ahead of the breakaway. But Piccoli is a great man who's won many times their leaders' jerseys and big sprints in big stage races. He's a very experienced man. We're just 30 kilometres now from the finish. They really are flying today into the town. That means we're going to finish. It's about 35 minutes of cycling left now, that's all. But the speed they're going, I'm not sure they're going to hold them off.
4:15 local time in Spain, and I tell you, they may well just finish before the hour at these speeds that they're going at right now, because this is quite a remarkably fast stage this afternoon. The average speed since the start has been 44 kilometres an hour. That's almost 10 kilometres off the average when Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano set that record of 55.17 kilometres an hour a couple of years ago. These are the four leaders: Navas, Piccoli in the pink and blue jersey of Lampre, Carsten Kroon in the orange jersey of Rabobank, and the red jersey, Igor Astroloa, just sitting on the back there in the red jersey of, in fact, the Saiko team. But these guys are losing so much of their time gap over the next few kilometres, and it looks as if it's 31 kilometres to go. Well, there's a bit of a discrepancy there. I would say it's around about a kilometre between the leading group of four and the main field.
30, well, it's come up again now at 31.7, so that's a difference. That's slightly different. That'll be the gap now, registering between the two groups, so it's about just on a mile between the two groups in old terms. So there's the peloton, still being led by Once. Now, if you've missed any of the stage of the Vuelta so far, then do tune in to OLN every Thursday night, by the way, and you can catch up with the latest insight. OLN Summer Sports Zone, featuring highlights, news, results, domestic, international road cycling, and, of course, mountain biking. And you can check it out every Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern and Pacific. Looking at Piccoli there, 1:29, the latest gap. He's now 32 years of age. In fact, he's just had his 33rd. It's his birthday tomorrow, Mariano Piccoli. Paul, he'll be 33 tomorrow. He's gone a day early to try and win the stage, because he probably fears he won't have much of a chance in the time trial tomorrow. But he's won 3 stages in the past of the Vuelta, 2 in the year 2000 and 1 in 1997. He's twice been the king of the mountains in the Giro d'Italia. And he's one of the few riders also to have won the points as well in the Giro d'Italia. Unusual for a mountain climber to also take the points prize too. He is the most experienced man in that breakaway, and I guess we've just worked out there, Paul, why he's made the move. It is his 33rd birthday at midnight tonight, but I think he might have misjudged it.
Well, he's a clever bike rider. He always looks for the move, and in fact we saw him win the final stage of the Giro d'Italia a couple of years around the streets of Milan in a breakaway situation like this. The advantage is still on the shoulders of the attackers right now, because it's up until the last kilometre they must keep going. But you know, the main field, they really are keeping a very high tempo up, and I think we will see it all come back together, because a minute and a half with just 30 kilometres to go is a very tall order.
Well, the old arrowhead is forming, but it's been there for a while now. It's a bit more comfortable in the back seats today. Now the wind has changed direction behind them. The riders settling down. A few deep breaths. Just want to get to the finish, and the showers awaiting them in Zaragoza. While Pataki will be working out with his team how he's going to take on the big sprinters. And Julian Dean of CSC is another man who seems to be sprinting very well, along with Zabel and Pataki, of course. So there we are. They are clearly going quicker. Well, they were anyway, than the 3 leaders. We'll take another break. 4 leaders. And here we are, the 5th day of the Tour of Spain. The riders just 27 kilometres from the line now in Zaragoza, and they still have not caught the 4-man breakaway. We're inside a 2-minute advantage for them now, but we still can't see them on the horizon, and that is always a good sign for the breakaways, isn't it?
Just going past the sign there indicating Zaragoza town centre, 27 kilometres. These guys, we eventually, I should say every now and again we get a speed check on the 4 leaders and the main peloton. and once or twice the difference in speed between these two groups has been registered at 20 kilometers an hour. 12 miles an hour. The main field sometimes are going faster than these guys, but they are still working very well together. Piccoli's the man at the back, obviously the most experienced rider, but 1 minute and 8 seconds, Bob, with 27 kilometers to go. That is almost impossible. When the main field gets its complete rage behind it, they can wipe out that type of time gap in around about 5 or 6 kilometers.
Yes, absolutely. And they can see that the Once team is now on the front of the bike race. They want to keep their rider Nozal out of trouble, keep the jersey. Also, Igor Gonzalez de Galeano need to stay out of trouble. You can just see the golden jersey there over on the far left-hand side of your screen. I think that's actually the points jersey.
It's the points,
Jordi Joaquim Rodriguez, and fantastic view there of the peloton. The Fossa Bortolo riders, like you said, Paul, when they come to the front and do a team effort, putting the hammer down, they can wipe out a minute in just a few clicks down the road. This is a good little breakaway. Yesterday's break, they were helped by the tailwind especially. It was a little bit bigger of a breakaway, and it also got organized quite a bit closer to the finish. So these guys in the front have been out there for a long, long time. Carsten Kroon, Mariano Piccoli, Igor Astarloa, and David Navas. That's a great breakaway. All of them have been contributing to the success of the breakaway, and it would be a shame for them to get caught. But also, Pataki knows he won't have a chance to win a stage for at least 4 days, so he's going to put his men at the front and go flat out in the sprint today.
Well, if he lives up to the reputation he's built this year, he won't be here in 4 days, because once the mountains start, he tends to call it a day. But we'll see. He hasn't quite picked up on the habit of Mario Cipollini yet. But there's the field down there. The one Fossa Bortolo rider taking part, I think, is Volodymyr Gustov, the Ukrainian rider. He tends to be the early workhorse for the team. Just getting involved with the Once boys. The gap coming down to 56 seconds now, so they will shortly see the four riders if they haven't already. As we keep to the left here, it's the auto route or the freeway to Zaragoza if they go up the ramp on the right. So we're going in on the main road. 55 seconds and still coming down. Now there's the leading four on the left of our picture. Information coming from the Lamprey team car as well, and it's coming back all the time. And of course, he's positioning his car there, I suggest, Bob, as you're indicating to me, to take the wind off his rider, would you think? No, surely not.
Well, I think that the officials might want to have a look at that. You're not actually allowed to drive the car up next to the riders when they're pulling through in the breakaway. You have to come a little bit behind them so you don't give an advantage to them. But it's I think it's a
professional foul, actually.
Professional foul. Foregone conclusion, however, when you have 2 or 3 teams organized on the front of the bike race. The riders are fresh legs, and they're only 55 seconds behind now. They can just see them there at the top of the screen. The breakaway will be coming back into the peloton like a stone when the Fossa Bortolo riders go to the front in the final few kilometers.
I think what's important is something you said earlier, Bob, that it is only a 4-man breakaway, and they've been at the front of the bike race for an awful long time, because the 4 men we're looking at, Kroon, Piccoli, Astro and Navas, they actually escaped the main field after just 9 kilometers of racing, and right now they've been leading the race for 130 kilometers on what has been a very fast and furious stage. But it's soon going to be all over for them, because you can see and feel the excitement and concentration on most of these bike riders in the group.
Well, there's been a very slight change in direction, and that's caused the front end of the peloton to go in a long, thin line again. And so these boys are going to start racing to grab whatever they can as it goes past them. And it's the back wheel of the rider alongside them. Don't forget, it's the big day tomorrow, the first big day perhaps, the individual time trial, just under 44 kilometres as we race around Zaragoza, where we're racing into at the moment. We'll be with you live at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time, 6:30 a.m. on the West Coast. And I'm sure we'll see a change in the leaderboard on that occasion. But who is going to present us with the best time of the day?
Well, I'll tell you what, just looking at the group there was a very big organisation, Bob, wasn't it, of US Postal Service, and George Hincapie actually looked to me as if he had his warrior head on this afternoon. He looked as if he was getting himself psyched up. We should never forget that Hincapie has been a great winner of bike races in his career. He's won a one-day classic, the great race from Ghent to Wevelgem, and I have a funny feeling today he may well feel that he has got a chance to rival some of the big sprinters. There are not that many big sprinters here as there are at the Tour de France and the Tour of Italy. The main man he has to keep a very close eye on is Alessandro Pataki. But on his day, I reckon even George Hincapie could rival the great Italian.
Yes, absolutely. He's got good form towards the end of the year. He's hoping to do a good Vuelta a Espana leading up to the World Championships. The Worlds will be the last chance for a lot of our big stars of cycling to do a good ride. And I think depending on what happens here in the Vuelta a Espana, we might see Levi Leipheimer try again at the World Championships to get a good ride to secure a solid contract for next year. A lot of teams going away in the off-season, so riders desperate to get some results. Once on the front, making huge tempo.
Well, these are the 4 leaders away from the 9th kilometre today. They are coming inside the last 25 or so to go. This might be the banner, in fact, as they're now heading in. That's the end of the feed zone, which means they're at 20 kilometres from the finish now. They can't get to the riders anymore. It's a question of who will win the stage and will the peloton get back. We'll find out very shortly. And welcome back. Well, they are still away with 18 kilometres to go, but wait a minute, as the camera pulls back here, I think we're going to see the peloton. They are very close to being caught now. Now, that is no more than about 20 seconds.
Certainly not very much at all. Those guys are not giving up at the front. The leading group of 4 there, just hoping to get into the outskirts of town, but that's not going to happen. This is Karsten Kroon we're looking at. Yes, I think that face tells it all. He knows he put in a long breakaway today. They escaped after 9 kilometres. They've led the race right now for 135 kilometres. And it's almost all over. The next few kilometres or so and these boys will be back in the main field, and the excitement will then turn around to the sprinters who'll be fighting for the first places in the peloton.
Looking at Karsten Kroon there, he's really had a great season this year with Rabobank. Got a good win in the 5th stage of the Tour du Poitou-Charentes, but also he's been a good workhorse for the team, and he's, what, 4th year pro now.
Yeah, but there's been a lot of criticism by the Rabobank management on the performances of the team this year. In fact, in the next couple of days there's going to be a big meeting between Rabobank, the company, and the management of the actual cycling team to see what they can do about the strategy for next year, because obviously they haven't had the great results that was expected. We were expecting to see Levi Leipheimer at the Tour de France. Michael Burgard was not really all that good either. The men that they've invested a lot of money and time in, and at the end of the day that's what sponsorship is all about. You put the big money onto the backs of these riders, but you expect something in return.
Well, they've had bad luck as well, of course, but they have been the world #1 team, and knowing the management of Rabobank, they certainly won't be happy with anything less than that. It's a massive organisation because they have a nursery as well for bringing young professionals through. They have women's teams and they have schoolboy teams, so it is a wonderful asset in Dutch cycling, and they expect their big boys in the top team to deliver. Well, it's been a good break even so by Karsten Kroon and the other 3, but it looks as though it's about to end, Bob. I do admire them. They're not giving up.
No, Karsten Kroon won a stage in the Tour last year, as did Michael Bugert, and the Dutch team expecting to continue those fortunes to not only stay the same but grow a little bit. They've invested a tremendous amount of time, energy, and money in cycling, and this year their results haven't been there. They have had some bad luck. Eric Decker, the stalwart, the solid foundation of the team, has been out with injuries. He had a horrible crash in Milan-San Remo, breaking his femur just by the hip, and he's had a long, hard rehabilitation. One thing Karsten Kroon didn't have in this breakaway was Eric Decker, who helped him win his stage in last year's Tour.
That was right. That was up in the Plouay region of France. There is another Decker on the Rabobank. He's under 23 at the moment. Watch out for him when he comes. I think his name is Tom Decker. He is a very, very good cyclist, and very soon we're going to be seeing him riding for this first division team, and he is, I think, going to be something of a star. Looking
I was
back
going to
at
say,
the peloton,
it'd be good if they get onto the same team, because if they get away in a break,
it won't help me though, Paul.
It'll be a double-decker.
It'll be a double-decker. Well done. That's for American viewers. That's a 2-tiered bus. As we're now looking at the main field, and this is the catch. 9 kilometres they went away, and they are caught approximately 15 from the finish. So 23 kilometres is the only period of time out of the 160 plus today they will have seen the peloton. But now they're merged. There it is, peloton agrupado, everybody together. The sprinters now start licking their lips and sending up the domestiques to set the pace and try and keep them out of the wind and in a perfect position for the run-in to Zaragoza. This is where it gets exciting.
This is where it starts to get exciting. It's a nice run in here this afternoon. It's mainly on wild boulevards, and then there's an 800-metre turn at around about in the last kilometre, and it goes into a slightly narrow road. It's slightly uphill as well, which would tilt the advantage towards Eric Zabel, Bob's pick for this afternoon. And I think we can see that Eric obviously feels that he's got a chance, because the team jerseys we're seeing most at the front are the pink and black jerseys of Team Telecom.
Well, Eric, no doubt, is a great sprinter, but I'm not sure he's fast as Pataki anymore. But we'll find out when we get to the finish. It could be a most interesting sprint, and that's for sure. Now then, looking for something else to watch at 10 p.m? Well, OLN at 10 will bring you the latest shows on the network, and that comes to you Monday through Wednesday. You can see shows like Beach Ambush, Bragging Rights, Mysterious Encounters, and Outdoor Outtakes. The new lineup will all begin on September the 29th at 10 p.m. Eastern and Pacific. The face of the boys in pink and black, as they now try to mix it with the Once team. The Once boys have done their job for the team leader and race leader, because they've caught the breakaway, and the danger man there was Igor Astoloa. Now they can expect a little bit of help now from the sprinters teams, and the big thing about the Tour of Spain is there are no time bonuses, so all they've got to do now is make sure that Nozral finishes in the bunch to keep his golden jersey. And there's a little bit of a problem here at the back. Well, the La Barca team riders can't quite see his number, but he's away anyway. But that's going to be tough. That is really hard now to get back into the actions. We see him make his way up. But I just caught a glimpse of his number. It looks like Francisco Gutierrez, who's had a problem. And it is, but he's going to have to now race back into the action. Won't be easy. There we are, the city of Zaragoza, sitting on the horizon now as the whole peloton, virtually the whole peloton, speeds towards the finish. Look at the massive crowd there. This was the catch. A sad moment for the four leaders. They deserved better than that. We'll take a quick break. And welcome back. We are inside now, 10 kilometres to go to the finish. The peloton are still all together. Very nervous peloton they are. And there's the first man to launch an attack. And now it could be a Rabobank rider who's tried to slip away. But those accelerations will create a little diversion right now.
These are the great moves that you have to try and make if you don't have a big sprint under your belt. And charging down, this looks like Zeberg. He was on the attack a couple of days ago in that long breakaway. But right now, he's one of the experienced riders on Rabobank. And he was better known in the early part of his career, really, as a climber. But you see how much distance he got off the front end of the main field. Not very much at speeds like this.
Well, you see, when they're travelling at 50 plus kilometres an hour, to lift it by just a kilometre an hour on your own is pretty nigh impossible. And that's what the sprinters domestiques are trying to do now, keep the pace high and stop those counter-attacks disturbing their rhythm. Now, Zabel obviously feeling confident today. At 8 kilometres to go now, they're absolutely flying here. I would say that he sent all of his team up here, but you were saying, Paul, a few moments ago to me that he hasn't really got the lead-out men with him this year.
Well, he doesn't have his favourite lead-out man, Gian Matteo Fanini. The man who's most likely to help him in the final kilometres is Stefan Weissermann, who himself is a pretty good sprinter on occasions, but they've already lost two men, Team Telecom. They lost Cadell Evans due to that nasty crash where he fractured his collarbone. And I think the advantage right now will turn towards the Fassa Bortolo. Still got a full complement of riders. Dario Frigo, for example, who'll be thinking about the time trial tomorrow, can give the team a very long turnout on the front end of the main field with the last 4 or 5 kilometres to go. And then they'll have a man by the name of Sergei Ivanov taking over. You can see their train is getting organised right now. Bit of argy-bargy there on the front. You can see Alessio moving forward. They're going to try and look after their man Angelo Furlan. And this, for me, makes it a much more sensible sprint. Once you get a couple of teams organising it on the front, it actually makes the sprint a lot less dangerous, doesn't it, Bob?
Oh, absolutely. When the speed is high, all you have to do is keep your position and try to stay out of trouble. It makes it a lot less dangerous. When the danger is when the tempo changes frequently and you have a slowing down in the front and all the riders in the back take their chance to move to the front when they keep it fast like this. And you can see just how fast it is, 65 kilometers an hour with 7.5 kilometers to go. That is absolutely steaming down the road right now. Incredible speeds.
At one moment there, they hit 40 miles an hour, so they really are moving very, very quickly now, and it's Fassa Bortolo putting a lot of weight behind this. Now, this is looking a bit more like a routine sprint finish for the sprinters. Now they've got the whole race organised. Fassa Bortolo have got their men to the front, and all Alessandro Patacchi has to do is finish it off. He's got the record in the bag. He's won more stages in the same year of the 3 major tours than anyone else, so every day he wins again is a wonderful bonus for him. But he knows that if he doesn't get well finished place today, he's out of the mix now for the next few days of racing. Time trial tomorrow. That in itself will be interesting. It'll open the time gaps, and then we're off into the Pyrenees and one stage finish in France. By the way, we were mentioning yesterday about the possibility that the race might not allow Igor Gonzalez de Galdeon, not the race, but the French authorities, to cross the borders. Well, the French doping agency has said, although he is banned from racing on French soil, they accept the fact that this is a race organised by a foreign country, and they will not be taking any action. So we won't be seeing any embarrassing moments on the Vuelta Espana in France.
Well, that's good, because in fact those stages that go across into France I think are going to be very difficult indeed, especially the first one with a mountain top finish at Courtrai, and that's where the Tour of Spain I think will show us really who are going to be the strong climbers as we head down towards the southern part of the peninsula. But 3 very difficult days to come after the time trial. Right now it's a very difficult moment for the sprinters. You can see the jerseys of Alessio right in there. Eric Zabel, as always, riding near the front in about 5th or 6th position. Lombardi's not too far away, and it looks as if they've actually got a man up there alongside him to help out. And I can't for the moment see the position of Pataki, but you can be absolutely certain he's not too far away.
Well, the telecom men have absolutely vanished from the front of the bike race at this point. That does not augur well for Eric Zabel. He's going to need a guy to lead him out. Pataki will have no worries about that. Matteo Tossato, Guido Trentin, Sergei Ivanov all doing their maximum to get Pataki to the front with just a few hundred meters to go and let him do what he does best, and that's bolt to the line like a rocket ship. We haven't seen a sprinter that dominant since the glory days of Mario Cipollini.
Well, it's a great run in as well, actually, Phil, because it's completely straight. It's wide boulevards like this. There is a sweeping right-hand bend at around about 800 meters to go, and then it's straight a crack at the finishing line, but it does go up slightly, and that's the kind of sprint that Eric Zabel in the past has always enjoyed, even when he was at the top of his form. We keep talking about him not being at the top of his form, but he's still had 11 wins so far this season.
Coupled with 29 in 2001 and 22 last year, this boy can notch up the big victories, that's for sure. And 177 in all, joining a wonderful career. Made his debut back in 1992 now, so this will be his 11th season, which he's completing as a professional. Well, the peloton visibly travelling well, keeping the race compact. Nobody has had the ability to get off the front of this as we come out of Zaragoza just for the moment, but we do a circuit and go back in. There's the speed for you, 32, 33 miles an hour. Good fast tempo riding by Fassa Bortolo, and there's plenty of riders now willing to try and intrude. The golden jersey of Nozal is not very far off the front either. Wise man, if you ask me, because he's hoping to stay out of the way of what could be a touch of wheels down in the centre of the peloton there, and down somebody will go, and he doesn't want to lose his jersey over a silly mistake like that, which happened to David Miller a few years ago in the Tour de France.
Well, a lime green jersey's moving forward as well. That'd be the Milanese team from Portugal, and that will be the line out for Angeledo, who's a very good sprinter himself, especially in races like the Vuelta a España. This is a great run in. It's not dangerous at all for the sprinters this afternoon, but they've just got to keep their teammates on the front. The idea of a lead out is to keep the pace as high as possible and stop the confusion of lesser riders moving to the front and all of a sudden feeling that they've got a chance in the sprint, as we saw on the opening stage of the Tour de France. I think a loss to the Tour de France this year was the absence of Mario Cipollini's team when it came down to the sprints, because they would line the race out for the last 20 or 30 kilometers. But right now there are 2 teams on the front keeping the pace nice and high, and this shot here gives you an idea just how fast everybody's going.
And swooping into that adverse cambered bend, I thought little David Echeverria sitting at the wrong end of the peloton there, for the moment at least. That long line as they start to come up this slight incline after the descent stretches them right out again. It's a difficult job to keep control at the front. Now they're saying the distance to go is 1.6 kilometres. I can't believe that is right.
Well, it could be. They are flying along at the moment. They could be knocking off the kilometres. We haven't seen a single
banner today, have we?
Well, I think the roads are too wide to get the banners across the road. There was a banner just a few moments ago strapped to a bridge. And I think the fact is we must remember these guys are clocking off kilometres at around about 60 seconds a go right now.
Yes, even inside that at times, coming in at plus 65 kilometres an hour, so they really are coming in very, very quickly. There will be a few little hiccups as they approach the line, and that might disrupt the absolute speed of the Fassa Bortolo rise, but it looks like the Fassa team now have just about hit the front. But as we're entering the barrier straight, our mileage is absolutely correct. They have just galloped into town at a tremendous speed, and there's been a crash here. Now we saw the riders ricochet there. That is a nasty crash, and it looks here as though the Lampre rider, and it looks like Alessandro Cortinovis, has hit the barrier there with the side of his face. I hope he's okay, but he's taken a nasty blow as we go under. I think that might be the kilometre to go, that red sign on the right of the road. We're feeling our way into the finish here, because they are saying 1 kilometre to the finish. And look at this, that crash has disrupted the finish here.
Looks like it's Pataki up there in second place. It's definitely two Fassa Bortolo riders, and there's a big gap in the main field. I think the Lamprey rider trying to come across there in fourth position on the road is bound to be Jans Verada, but the man at the back end of the race is in serious difficulties. It is Pataki.
And Angel Edo has got his back wheel and is going to try and take him on the line. Well, this is a very, very easy victory for Alessandro Pataki, because nobody, as they couldn't with Cipollini, will get by him. As Julian Dean gets third place there on the line. Zabel was probably sixth, though. We'll wait for the photo on that. But that was, in the end, a very easy victory for Pataki, disrupted, and so too was all of our concentration by the accident once again on the running. We didn't see the impact, but our cameras picked up the fact that the Lamprey rider was down. But there's no doubt that the victory went to Alessandro Pataki, and, well, it was rather an anticlimax.
It was a bit of a surprise. Don't take anything away from the win by Alessandro Pataki, because he was completely concentrated on the front end of the main field. He had no idea what was going on behind him, and if you got a glimpse of his victory salute as he crossed the line, he was actually making the sign number 12, meaning that he's got himself 12 stage wins in the 3 major tours this year.
Well, this is the sight here, which is rather sad to see too, of Alessandro Cortinovis of the Lamprey team. This is a precaution, but he's taken a very nasty bang on the side of his face here. I think he's nodding that he's feeling okay. I hope he hasn't done anything like broken his jaw there, because he obviously wanged into the barriers with the side of his face. But he looks basically okay. This is Pataki, second stage win. Edo, and I think Julian Dean getting third there. Zabel might be a bit better than six. He might have got fourth, Bob.
Well, Pataki's salute to the crowd there took him quite a long time to complete, because he's won so many stages and races so far this year. I think he went up to 24 there. I kind of lost track after about 14 wins. He went 2 for the Vuelta,
he should have 23, but
Giro Tour, all of it. But this was a brilliant lead out by the Fassa Bortolo team. They peeled off their last man, Guido Trentin, with about 200 meters to go, and then it was just an absolute drag race to the finish by this man, and the counting begins right now, just a few meters after the finish.
It is true. In fact, Pataki himself in his press conference apparently the other day said he'd won 20 races. Well, we've got 22 down for him of victories, so he can't even keep up with his own number of victories right now. And then, of course, some people don't count the smaller races which don't have World Cup points. But we've got him down for win number 23 today.
I think I figured it out. 2 at the Vuelta, 6 at the Giro, and 4 at the Tour.
Yeah. Well done, Bob. That's amazing. I don't know how these boys can remember what they've done when they, after running like that at such a high speed. Edo, Dean, Zabel did get fourth, Pucciarello fifth, new name on the block for me, that one, and Rodriguez taking sixth place. So Rodriguez is going to increase his lead in points, although he's up against Pataki with 2 wins now.
He's up against Pataki, and I tell you what, Julian Dean is riding very well right now. It's a long time since we've seen Julian Dean ride so well as a very good sprinter, and Freddie Rodriguez up there as well. We saw the lime green jersey of Vinny Calderola.
Sorry, it was Fred Rodriguez, not Joaquim Rodriguez. Sorry, I missed out there. It was the yellowish jersey of Vinny Calderola. So there he is. The USA's Freddie Rodriguez getting a place. Good for him.
Well, Pataki there really has got it up. Max van Heeswijk up there as well in 18th place, and Matt Heyman, the Australian rider on Rabobank, scraping up into the top 20.
Well, just looking here, there's the further down the field. Our camera's doing a good job today at working out the results rather quickly, but no doubt the crash again there, and there is the sorry sight of the rider Cortinovis. They're still keeping on the road, which I find rather surprising, but they obviously he's going to go to hospital, and that probably means that he's out of the Tour. But it's in the last kilometre. If he is able to continue, then he will be allowed to do so. He doesn't have to cross the line under the regulations these days. Here's the sprint. Despite the chaos, obviously Pataki may have heard something. It caused a very early reaction to get the gap. Edo tried. He got the right wheel, but there's no way he's got the speed of this flying Italian who cannot do a thing wrong this year. Third place Julian Dean, and Eric Zabel was in fourth this time around. We'll stay with the action a little bit longer, so we'll just take a short break. Do come back and rejoin us. Well, welcome back. Well, we've just seen another stage victory for Alessandro Pataki. Boy, that man is fast, Paul. Those last kilometres flew by.
Absolutely superb. You know, it was right at the front end, and even if the crash was at the front end of the peloton, it did not affect him at all because the gap was there. He even led Angel Ado to the line, but no worries at all because nobody is coming past this man at the moment. He certainly is the new king of the sprints, taking the crown away now from Mario Cipollini.
He'll probably get a couple of second advantage in the sprint, not that it really mattered to him, but he pulled well clear of the peloton. The lead should stay on the shoulders of Nozal, who we think is in that break. There's the stage results. 3 hours 19 minutes for 103 miles today. And Angel finishing there in second place. Julian Dean, 2 seconds the official gap. In third, he is really sprinting well, getting the better of Eric Zabel. And Antonio Bucciero, the Italian rider there, also sprinting very well for Seiko. New sprinter on the block for them, and he's doing quite well. 5th place for Antonio. But you know, here we can go down to the presentation now. Here is Alessandro Patacchi. Lots of practice at this year. He's had 12 major stage victories in the 3 big tours now, and he's had 22 wins in all. He's without doubt the top man of the year, winning, and it's all come right for him this year. You see him win it again. Paul was right. Angel Ado really knew what to do, but couldn't answer the speed of this man. Bob thinks he's worked this out. There's 2 victories this year, 6 victories in the Giro, and 4 victories in the Tour de France, and 2 for good luck, I suppose that means, doesn't it, Bob?
It might be that he's going to win 2 more in the Vuelta.
Oh, it's indicating 2 more victories to come. But I tell you what, he's got to really get over the mountains first, of course. Here's the Pacific Life general classification. And yes, it's as we thought. All of the men that mattered finished in that main pack. Nozal, 50 seconds still, all intact, over Joaquin Rodriguez, who because of his finish is in second place. Galdeano third, Echevarria is in fourth, and Marcus Serrano completes the top 5 there for the Once Roscri team. So the time trial, don't forget, is tomorrow, and these we think are the riders to watch. Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano, Aitor Gonzalez, the defending champion of the Tour, Dario Frigo, David Miller, but we won't see much of him, he's so far behind overall, and Angel Casero. They're riders, and don't forget, Roberto Jerez cannot afford to lose time tomorrow. It's a big effort for him. Now back down to the podium, there he is. They've dragged him out very quickly today, and Isidro Nozal continues to lead the race. Once, the only team so far to have provided us with the race leader, and they've used 3 of the riders since they won that team time trial. So they're a very happy squad right now. It's all going very well for them. Tomorrow it's the race of truth. It could see the end of Nozal as the race leader for sure. It is the time trial. We stay based here in Zaragoza. And the weather forecast is reasonable as far as I know, so let's hope that it's not too hard. Tomorrow we will come to you as usual live again at 9:30 a.m. on the eastern seaboard of the United States, and that's the Zaragoza Circuit time trial. 43.8 kilometers, quite a long way. Should take the best boys around about 55 minutes to complete, and the best man maybe a little bit quicker than that even. And I suspect that when we join you on air, David Miller will be on top of the leaderboard because he starts very early tomorrow, as he's lost so much time already. But I'm not so sure he'll win the time trial. Some big hitters in this race who can ride a very good individual event. Don't forget, visit us online at olntv.com. We'll keep you right up to date as news comes to us. We put it on our website. And of course, there are storylines there from Paul and from Bob as well. Well, as we say goodbye to you, I can tell you now that we've just seen Alessandro Patacchi pull on the points leader's jersey, so his 2 stage wins have given him that. But this man stays in goal. For Paul, Bob, and me, Phil,